fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
All right, we have a fun podcast here. We're missing Joe, so we had started a podcast about foul weather, really cold weather here, I should say. Joe is starting off, and his power went out, so we're pressing forward. The show must go on. So we're approaching wintertime. You know, having the right gear is very important, not only for comfort, but literally for safety. Even for those of us in Florida, it won't be snowing on you, but it's humid. It could be cold out, and it could be dangerous. So we're gonna cover just items to have, both on comfort and on overall safety. So you can see Wyatt is dressed for the occasion. He is dressed in all his warm gear, even the booties. So Wyatt, start us off here. I know you lived in North Carolina for a bit. Now you're in Texas, and just kind of go over the key things to think about and to bring for cold weather fishing.
Absolutely. So the really big thing to keep in mind as we move into the late fall and winter is we're not just dealing with cold temperatures. We're dealing with really cold winds as well. So even though it may only be 60 degrees outside, if you've got 15, 20 mile per hour winds that are ripping that are common this time of year, you can really be looking at some temperatures that can induce hypothermia. You just got to be really careful with how you dress yourself. And really the three parts of getting ready for cold weather gear is having a good base layer, having a good mid layer, having a good outer shell. Base layer, first off, I don't have one on right now because they actually do keep you probably the warmest of anything you're going to wear. And I'm just inside. It's something you're going to wear under your main jacket. And you can pick these up at Walmart, Academy, and they're usually sold in different thickness levels. So like a level 1, level 2, level 3. And you're going to want to pick which one you get based on how much you're going to be wearing on top of it. So if you don't like a lot of layers, I would go with a really thick base layer. They're typically going to keep you a little bit warmer. If you like to control a little bit more breathability, I would recommend that you just wear the lightest base layer possible. Just leaves a lot up to who's going to be wearing it, how cold it is outside. But I would start really just with the base layer before you put anything else on. Our UPF shirts with the base layer, those can work early fall, mid fall. As we start getting into late fall, you're going to have to start introducing a mid layer, which is this Simms Cataphra hoodie that I'm wearing right here. One big thing to note, and Richard mentioned this earlier before we got cut off, is be conscious of what material that you're buying. I would say that more importantly than anything, don't buy cotton. Don't buy anything that's going to not retain heat when it gets wet, because we are out on the water. There might be some mist in the air that happens, late fall. Might get a little bit of snow if you're in the Carolinas. And you want to make sure you've got a good material that's going to not only block the wind when you do have those heavy wind days. This is I believe it's 97% polyester. It's got a nice lining on the inside of it. That's going to block that wind and retain a lot of heat to yourself. And you don't really need too much more than that for most coastal fishing scenarios. If you're, in the Carolinas or you're in parts of Texas that happen to be experiencing a crazy winter freeze, you might need an extra outer shell on top of that. But I'd say in terms of coastal fishing, that's really all you need is just a good base layer, a good shell or mid layer, and then a good outer shell. And you'll be able to deal with pretty much any of those really tough, windy, cold days.
Yeah. So Richard, you do a lot of kayaking and you spend a lot of time in the cold too. What are some particular kayaking just equipment that are some must-have for kayakers?
Yeah. So I have a Simms waders as well, similar to Wyatt. So these specifically, these are not the big, thick neoprene ones. Okay. These are the nylon. They're a lot more breathable. You can move in them and everything like that. And really the reason why I want these is for water protection and wind too. But that's really what you're trying to protect. Because if you get wet, you're going to be in trouble. And going back to materials again, cotton, if you get cotton wet, you have 0% of that warmth from that material left. But if you have wool, for example, you can contain 90% of the heat even when wet. So that's something that's really important. And the other thing you want to think about, especially, when you're close to the water, like kayak fishing, is all of your extremities of kind of where they are and what is the most likely, thing going to get wet. It's going to be your hands, your feet, some places around your ears and all as well. So I really like having some gloves because I'm a big baby with cold hands and it's not fun for anybody. So I have these right here. These are similar, kind of a Gore-Tex material. But again, when you're kayaking, if you're paddling, something like that, you want something that's going to block a lot of the wind. And if water gets on this, it's fine because it'll splash right off because it's that Gore-Tex material. It's got a little bit of fleece and stuff lined in it. So it's still not going to be the best if it gets dunked, but it's at least going to protect you, from that much. But yeah, those are some things I really like. And then again, with those waders that I have too, we've got the booties here. And these are all neoprene. And I like these a lot better than the ones that already come with boots because you can pick your own, water shoes and stuff like that. Like Wyatt just upgraded, I know, to some warmer ones. The ones I have down here are a lot more breathable and water can pass in and out a lot. So that's something to think about as well. And then something for safety that, especially if you're going to be wearing any type of waders and you're going to be in a kayak, even a boat, it doesn't matter. Make sure you're wearing a belt because it doesn't take much. As soon as water can penetrate and get in, I mean, it's going to sink you right to the bottom. So make sure you've got a belt on and wear it. That's really important.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of wade fishermen who have stepped in a hole, right? They're out wading and get a little bit deep and step in a hole. And if that water gets in the waders, it's like a rock. You really cannot swim in it. It is a surprisingly dangerous thing. So that's a great point. The belt basically cures it. It makes sure that the water can't just totally pour in real fast. And so I know you do a lot of wading over there. What kind of footwear and extra stuff should everybody be thinking about when wade fishing? Obviously, you're in the water, so it's extra important to be waterproof and to have some thickness. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so for the most part, what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of folks with the zip-up flats booties, and that's what I've been wearing the past couple months. You've seen me do a lot of wet wade fishing in some of my videos, but now that it's starting to get a little bit colder, I'm starting to wear these thicker insulation boots. I've got the same waders as Richard with the booties. I'm wearing them right now. They're the Sims Freestones, but I wear these Orvis Clear Waters. They've got a little bit more insulation to them, combined with the insulation on the booty. Keeps your feet real warm. As Richard touched on, your extremities are where you're going to lose most of your heat, your ears, your neck, your hands, and especially your feet. And really, if you're wading, if your feet get cold, it's going to be game over. Your calves are going to start cramping. Your shins are going to lock up. It's terrible. So keeping your feet really warm, super important. In fact, sometimes if I know it's going to be a really cold day, I'll even wear some socks underneath the booties themselves instead of just going in there barefoot. But something else to note, if you are going to be wading, you can see I've got the polyester Sims jacket. And I wear a lot of Sims products because they've got great features on them, definitely designed by fishermen. But I would not recommend wearing like polyester while you're going to wade. It's going to get wet and it's actually going to make you colder just because it's going to not allow you to hold that heat. So instead, I recommend you pick up this material. I don't know exactly. It's you guys can kind of see it right here. It's that real. It's like rainproof almost. It's real water, super water resistant. And when you're wading around, that water just rolls right off of it. And there's a good fleece layer on the inside, like especially close to the neck where you need to keep a lot of warmth. And on the inside of the arms, or right near your armpits. It does a great job of keeping you warm while not getting super wet and taking all that heat away from you. So I wouldn't wear the same jacket that you're going to be on the boat with. You guys can see this is the Sims Cataphra hoodie. I would not wear this wading, but I would definitely wear the Sims Challenger wading. Difference is this one costs a lot more. Obviously, if you're just in a boat, you don't need to spend a ton of money on an expensive jacket like this. I would just go with a polyester Cataphra. But if you're going to be getting in the water at all, this is going to be super necessary, something that's got that really good material on it. Or if you are fishing really heavy, windy days, this type of material that, really heavy water repellent that doesn't let anything in, does great at blocking wind too. So they're a little bit more expensive, but they can definitely be worth it depending on the activity that you're doing.
Yeah, and I'll speak to boaters. And even though you're more protected from being in the water than wading, but also kayaking, even still, I recommend getting some waterproof boots or shoes of some kind. I didn't do it for many years, and I got some a couple years ago. It was a Christmas present. I didn't think I really needed them, but it was just these little extra tough little boots. And I get some wool socks and wear these things, and it is night and day difference. If you can just keep your feet warm, that is a total game changer. And if you can't, that's also a total game changer. It's super uncomfortable and it's really hard to recover without getting indoors once your feet get cold. So even if you're in a boat, wear waterproof. And I think a key word that I've heard both of you guys say is layering. Layers is very important, especially if areas where it's going to be super cold in the morning and then it's going to get warmer. There's two ways to get wet. One is from the water coming at you, and number two is from sweating. And if you're out early in the morning and it's cold and then it warms up and you're actively paddling or actively fishing or walking, whatever the case is, and you start sweating, if you're over layered or have stuff that's too thick, you're not going to be sweating, and now you're going to be hurting once the temperature goes back down. So especially those in Florida, right? It'll get in the 40s or so, sometimes 30s, but then it'll get up to 60 or 65. And then if you stay out a little bit later in the afternoon, now it's starting to go down again. And if you're sweating at that point, you can be in big trouble. And even though it's Florida, it does get dangerous. So I personally just do a lot. I don't really take anything too thick in layers or everything, but quality of stuff is big too. I know both of you guys have shown some sim stuff, and even though we're not sponsored by Sims or anything, but I wanted to highlight a jacket because I've used a lot of rain jackets over the years and just windbreakers. And even if it's not raining, I always wear a good jacket because it just helps keep the wind away. And this is a Sims jacket, and it is by far the nicest jacket I've ever had. I've had a lot of Columbias and just random waterproof jackets. They're all great, right? So any of them will work. But the Sim stuff is legit. And I can't remember it doesn't say the actual name of it. But if I can find it, I'll put it down in the notes. But any of their jackets, they're high end, they're expensive. But I've had this thing for about 4 years now, and it has definitely been worth the investment.
Yeah, that one looks like the Challenger. It's the same one that I have. It's that windbreaker material is just phenomenal, and all the little features on Sims's gear is what really makes it. Like if you go and you get something from Costco, number one, the material is probably not going to be right, and when it gets wet, you're going to end up getting cold anyway. But they put a lot of really great features on these things. Even like with this Cataphra hoodie, you can see just from releasing fish, there's extra insulation right here on the forearm, and it's a different material than what's up here, so it dries faster. And the neck, we talked about extremities getting cold. Your neck's really important, so they made the trim on this where it goes up real high. It's almost like a turtleneck. I know Joe would have loved to have seen that. He loves his turtlenecks. But Sims does a great job at making stuff that's really designed for fishermen. There's a lot of accessory pockets and stuff in here if you need to put your phone or whatnot. So I do recommend if you are going to be spending money on cold weather gear, make sure you go with somebody good like Orvis or Sims. I wouldn't cheap out. This is not the place to cheap out, and it's going to be much more nice on the water wearing something that's comfortable and allows you to be more efficient with all of your gear and everything else. So I can't recommend really good quality brands enough.
Cool.
Yeah, and one too, I do have a Columbia jacket, but it's a series that they have called the Omni Heat. This stuff is pretty cool. And this particular jacket, you can actually put a liner in it and it'll zip up with it, again, with that layering stuff. But this is great because if this completely gets wet, it reflects back your own body heat. So even if it's wet, it'll still, give you some warmth as long as you've got some body heat. So that's really good. And then going back to layering too, especially in wet environments like wading or kayaking, and, you're out there, you're getting wet, you're paddling, all that, you want to make sure that you've got something to waterproof your additional clothes, or if you're going to be paddling out in the morning and you don't want to sweat, and then when you kind of get to your fishing area, you're not just sweating the whole time. That way you can add that layer back on when your heart rate gets back down and all that. Wyatt, I believe, has got a waterproof bag around can show. And yeah, so guys, these things are awesome. It's just a snap waterproof bag. You can get them at, Bass Pro, Academy, all your big stores. But those are clutch. And, for one, they're going to float. You can snap them on different things and make sure they won't, get away from you. But the main thing is your clothes, or for emergencies, or just putting your extra in, is going to be dry. You just want to make sure everything you can keep dry stays dry. And those are awesome.
Yeah, having a backup plan, right? So take some extra stuff, or at least a towel, something that's there in case you do get. You could easily fall in, right? It's not, especially when you're cold. That's when you kind of get sloppy. So it is just extra important to bring some extra gear. And as you're layering down in the middle of the day, have something dry to keep in. Nothing worse than having your spare clothes that you have to put back on later get wet. And now they do more harm than good. So why were you picking up something else to show off?
Yeah, so we completely forgot to touch on pants, which we talked about a bunch of jackets. But pants are really important. Your legs are definitely want to keep them warm as well. Again, the same advice that I gave with upper body. I would definitely recommend picking up a base layer for your legs. In fact, I would start with a really thick base layer because I generally wear the same type of pants in the summer and the winter, but all I do is just wearing a base layer and not wearing a base layer. Some people might need to wear an extra layer. Grundon's makes a really good thermal base layer. Mine's dirty right now because I just went out wading with them, but they're phenomenal. Another great choice. And I was banging on Costco earlier. They actually do have some good stuff. This is some pants I picked up. The company's called Jerry, but you guys can see there's a polyester fleece lining in here. These are ridiculously warm. Like if I wear these inside, I'm going to sweat. And you can wear them out fishing and they're super comfortable. And I think they're ski pants, so they have a good amount of water resistance to them as well. I've actually waded in these before, early season, with a base layer. They're not necessarily meant to be waded with, but it did a really good job of holding heat. I just didn't have any waders at the time. But I cannot recommend enough picking up a base layer for your upper body and your lower body as well, and making sure that you're wearing pants, if you don't have a base layer, that are going to keep you insulated with that, fleece lining. Again, ski pants can work really well. Joe, before he dropped off, talked about some great pants he had from REI. And again, one thing to note is that, pants that you're going to wear that you don't need a base layer for are not breathable at all. And his had zippers on the sides so that once it warmed up, you could get a little bit of breathability there. But again, I do like the base layers because they have a ton of breathability while helping you hold in heat. That's where I think you really need to start your cold weather gearing up, is investing in a good quality base layer. That's definitely the first step for both upper body and lower body.
Yeah, and even for pants, I mean, you could end up just having, like, I just get a waterproof pants, just like normal pants, and then I just use whatever base layer. Sometimes if it's just a little bit cold, I'll just wear like the normal like sun protection pants under there just to have a little bit layer. Sometimes you can do jeans, or if it's super cold, have like fleece line stuff. It's just more bang for your buck just to have just a variety of different options that we can just customize it based on the weather. So what about headgear? I know keeping the head. Why you have your hoodie on? What do you have there?
Yeah, so this is the Utk Beanie, the real UT for all of our Texas folks out there. This is just going to keep my ears nice and warm. That's really important. If you don't wear anything else, have some ear covers or a beanie. A hat is not going to suffice. I would say that for sure. Any kind of skull cap, something that's going to cover up your ears, because that's where a lot of heat's going to get lost. And I really recommend getting a jacket like this Cataphra that is able to get your neck popped up. And you saw on the Sims jacket, there was a layer of fleece right around the neck. Want to make sure that you got something that's going to keep these extremities right here able to hold in that heat, because you're going to lose a lot right there. So especially on those really, really windy days, if you're in a boat and you're going down the intercoastal against the wind, oh my goodness, it can take it out of you for sure. So make sure you got like a beanie, skull cap, or a good hoodie, or not hoodie, a good hood on your jacket that you can cinch the strings down on at least. Something that's going to cover up those extremities for sure.
Ideally, the beanie plus the hoodie. If it's cold, like all my favorite jackets for super cold all have hoodies, and I wear, I have a little beanie here. Nice. Had this thing for years. I take it snowboard and stuff, but I take it fishing when it gets cold. And if you have this plus a waterproof and wind resistant hoodie, like from a jacket, it's shocking how effective it is. Even in super cold, even at night or whatever, it is a game changer. And so, Richard, anything else that we missed?
Yeah, that's it. Keep the ears warm and the extremities, because if not, it's just not fun.
Not fun at all.
And your feet. Don't forget about the feet.
Yep.
Don't forget the feet. And it's in wintertime fishing is something that I really didn't do much. I thought that just the fish would have lockjaw after cold fronts, and trust me, that is not the case at all. I missed a ton of really amazing opportunities to catch a bunch of fish because I just flat out didn't go when it got cold. And so for those who aren't Insider Club members, highly recommend just trying out the club, because we teach the game plans on how to go out after cold fronts when it's cold and know where the fish are. The fish are extremely predictable after cold fronts. And for those who know where they are, it's amazing. For those who don't, like I was for many years, that's when I struggled so bad that I would just say, oh, it's cool. They have lockjaw. That's now a phrase I don't use anymore because they're going to be, they might not be super active, but they're absolutely going to be feeding and they're going to be in very predictable positions, most importantly. So make sure to give the club a try. As soon as you join, you're going to get access to our 3 core courses, one of which is the Finding Spots Mastery course. And that's going to go through every season exactly how to predict where the fish are going to be, whether it's redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder. That's the core species that we target. And after going through that course, plus the other 2 on positioning and approach, you're going to have the foundation to consistently go out and catch a ton of fish. So if you haven't yet joined, give it a try. We'll put a link down below, saltstoring.com/pricing. If you want to type in, it's so good. We offer a 365-day satisfaction guarantee. So you literally have an entire year to go through it and make sure it's awesome. And if somehow you don't think it is, just let us know. We'll give you a full refund. I'm sure that won't come up, but in case you need the money back, we'll give it to you. But thank you so much for watching. Any questions at all on this, leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, we will see y'all on the next podcast. And maybe Joe's going to actually survive this one without the power going out. Who knows? But thanks for watching. See you later on.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was